All right, good morning, everybody. I am meteorologist Jake Lambright, and I think I finally got this set up where I am streaming to you both on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. Of course, we'll have to see how this goes, still trying out some new technology, but this is going to be a relatively brief chat. Just want to give you a quick update on the tropics, and then, of course, what to expect with today's weather. And then, of course, especially for those of you in central Louisiana, I'll talk a little bit more about what to expect later on in the forecast. That'll be coming up later tonight on KALB platforms. Good morning once again, and thanks for joining me. I see a couple already joining on Facebook, maybe a few starting to hop on over on Instagram as well. So maybe if you're also tuning in on Facebook and you know somebody that doesn't use Facebook as much and uses Instagram, especially some younger people, make sure to let them know that I also go live on other platforms if they want a quick and brief weather update. What you're looking at right now on the screen is tropical satellite and, of course, the area that the National Hurricane Center has been highlighting. I'll actually move that back and see if I can't loop that. Looks like maybe I can. So there you go. You can kind of see that disturbance that I'm talking about. I'm going to circle it there with the mouse. Of course, that X there was kind of where it was earlier this morning. But now that has started to shift a little further to the west. And of course, the chances for tropical development remain low and the window is even narrower. I really don't see this being anything at this point. With that said, though, it will bring us some rain and some brief relief from the heat. Both great things that I know many are looking forward to. We'll go ahead and zoom on in here. Actually, before that, let's go back. I'm going to turn off the satellite and even go in and turn off that area to watch. And we'll turn on the current radar and kind of zoom in here to a statewide view. So you will notice as you head toward the southeastern part of the state and kind of the south shore of New Orleans there, especially, and even south of I-10 there near Acadiana, now more so, especially along the coast. We've got some areas of rain associated with that disturbance. And of course, rain chances will kind of continue as we go throughout the day today. So now that I've shown you that, we'll move on to a look at model data as we go through the next few hours. I'm going to load some of that in here. So give me just a moment to get that worked out. It's going to load it in here, and then I'll be able to take control of the timeline. We'll go back here. We'll actually put the timeline on your screen there. We'll fast forward to, this is noon today. Let's fast forward to about 4 o'clock this afternoon. You'll notice some of those isolated to scattered showers and storms. So not everybody's going to see rain out of this today, but a few lucky spots will. And of course, those that see rain will see even further improvement when it comes to the temperatures. Today is really the last day that we see highs in the mid and upper 90s for a couple days. But of course, once that disturbance moves on early next week, highs right back similar to what they were yesterday and similar to what they'll be today. We'll be right back in the upper 90s, if not low triple digits next week. And that's not even factoring in the humidity. So warm weather does return pretty quickly. That brief cool down is brief and it's very slight and subtle. High temperatures top out in the lower 90s. And of course, with the humidity, feels like temperatures will range anywhere from 105 to 110. Let's go ahead and progress this forward a little bit more. This is a look at things about 6 o'clock this evening, and portions of northeast Louisiana, central Louisiana, even Acadiana, likely to be dealing with a couple of scattered showers and storms across the region. Now, the good news is severe weather not really anticipated today. Can't rule out a strong storm or two with gusty winds up to 40, maybe 50 miles an hour, similar to what we saw yesterday evening in the New Orleans metro and even probably the eastern portions of kind of the Baton Rouge viewing area. With that said, we'll go ahead and move things forward a little bit more. This is a look at things about 7 o'clock this evening, still dealing with a couple of those isolated to scattered showers and storms. And then beyond that, things along I-10 could stay pretty rainy until midnight tonight, and then we see things start to calm down. As we head a little closer to maybe 2, 3 a.m., a couple of isolated showers and storms will be possible along kind of the New Orleans metro on both the north and south shore. But once again, not everybody will be dealing with rain by that point. Speaking of rain, when it comes to rainfall totals, and this is all said and done, here's a look at what those could look like over the next week. And of course, this is starting to pick up on also maybe some more unsettled weather returning toward the second half of next week. When we get into, let me try to get my pen back so I can illustrate this a little bit more. When we start to get into these darker blue colors that you see over portions of northeastern Louisiana, whether that be Wynn Parish, Caldwell Parish, even portions of LaSalle, Franklin, Tensas Parish, that's where we could see maybe 3/4 of an inch of rain at max between now and this time next week. Then as you get toward these lighter blues heading out toward Leesville, Fort Polk, Alexandria, Marksville, that's where we could see an inch to maybe an inch and a quarter of a rain, an inch and a quarter of an inch of rain between now and this time next week. And clear that out once again. Of course, our high rainfall totals with this disturbance are going to be found along and south of Interstate 10, so out toward Lafayette, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, even out toward Lake Charles, we could see some slightly higher rainfall totals. The magenta colors indicate about 2 inches of rain. The lighter colors, as we get into those reds, are picking up on some areas with maybe 3 inches of rain. And I wouldn't be shocked to see isolated totals in that area up to 5 inches. When I say localized, I mean very small pockets could see totals up to 5 inches of rain, especially if we see a heavier shower or storm kind of sit over the same area for a while. That's where we could see some of those locally higher amounts. So thankfully, some pretty manageable rainfall totals coming out of this and a pretty healthy amount of rain. Of course, it's summertime, it's hot. We could use the rain, we could use the cool down, and not anything too crazy that would cause some issues for us. So when it comes to the flash flooding risk, you'll notice this green shading on your screen. That's today's flash flooding risk. That green shading indicates a marginal risk, which is a level 1 out of 5 on the flash flooding scale. You'll notice a very similar flash flood outlook for tomorrow, for Friday, July 25th. And then Saturday, July 26th, that marginal flash flooding risk, again, level 1 out of 4, really hovers the I-10 corridor in area south in the state of Louisiana as what's left from that disturbance does start to move on out. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at temperatures. I'm going to let this load in here. It'll kind of look a little glitchy there on your screen, and then I'll be able to take over that timeline. So we'll go into we'll take a look at tomorrow and then go back to today. I know that might not make a lot of sense. Um, Actually, here's what we'll do. I'm going to turn this off. Working with new technology, so working with some new layers here, of course. Let me set this up. We'll look at maximum temperatures there, southern Mississippi Valley. Here's a look at highs today. We're going to be back in the upper 90s for a lot of spots, maybe even low triple digits there for some along Interstate 20. Then as you head a little further south, we're looking at mid to maybe upper 90s for those afternoon highs. You see there, Lafayette, this is kind of picking up on maybe highs there in the mid 90s out toward Baton Rouge, maybe even lower 90s as you head out towards New Orleans. Let's see if this is going to do a good job with our minimum temperatures. Should be pretty similar. We'll see lows a little bit cooler tonight, likely in the mid 70s across a good portion of the state, maybe a little warmer out towards I-20 once again. Of course, where you see kind of that plus and that number reading is where I have the mouse, and that's where it's picking up on those low temperatures. So overall, not too bad across most of the state. Of course, going to be looking at some drier conditions as we head into the month of August. Want to show you that latest outlook there. This is the Climate Prediction Center's monthly outlook for precipitation. It's showing a slight chance of below average precipitation. That's what this kind of orange shading represents over most of the state. Try to switch that once again. And then whenever it comes to temperatures, let me zoom this out. We are kind of at a coin toss whether we're slightly above or slightly below average. The rest of the United States there has a slight chance of seeing above average temperatures as indicated by the orange shading there over most of the country. So go ahead and look here. I see some questions there in the Facebook comments. So if you'll give me just a moment, I will start answering some of those. I'm watching along here. I see a few people leaving comments this morning. Thank you so much, Sandra, for joining me this morning, and thank you for the compliment. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Rhonda, for joining me this morning from Marksville. It's going to be another hot day, but maybe we'll get some rain by this afternoon, this evening to help cool us off. That would be very nice. Good morning, Shayla. Yes, I am so glad that we're getting some relief from the heat. Again, it's not going to be much in the way of temperatures. For those that see rain, that'll be where the noticeable difference is. But hey, 5 degrees is better than nothing, especially this time of the year. Thank you, Sue, for joining me this morning. Thanks, Trey, for joining me over here on Facebook as well. I see Jeff is asking about rain in the Monroe, West Monroe area. Let me go ahead and pull some of that data back up. We'll kind of take a look at this together. So rain is possible, but crazy rainfall totals not expected. Really, y'all are looking at maybe half an inch to 3/4 of an inch at best, and that is also picking up on some of what we could see next week. So really, I'm kind of leaning toward that quarter to half inch mark. Let me turn that timeline back on for you. And I know it's small, so I will kind of tell you what timeline I'm looking at. So here's a look at things 5 o'clock in the evening today. You'll notice some of those spotty hit and miss showers and storms across the Arklamis. That is generally what I am expecting today and tomorrow. Then by 6 p.m., you see that isolated to scattered coverage kind of still continuing there, and then it fizzles out by 9 to 10 o'clock tonight at the latest. All right, so I don't see any questions. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds, and if I don't see anything, I will go ahead and hop off. Of course, you can find my latest weathercast coming up tonight on KALB if you're from Central Louisiana. If you're not from Central Louisiana, you can stream those kalb.com/live stream or on the KALB smart TV apps. And of course, our latest weather updates from me and the KALB team are always in rotation on our 24/7 weather live stream, which again, you can also find on those streaming apps, watch those weather updates around the clock, and you can also find that on our website, kalb.com. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off for now. I might have actually lost the Facebook stream. We'll see. I think I'm still on Instagram here. The joys of technology sometimes doesn't always work uh, in our favor. Okay, looks like the Facebook stream's still there. Maybe my phone glitched. But I'm going to go ahead and hop off for now. And of course, you can find me later today over on the KALB platforms.